So far, we've seen what firewalls are and what they do. We looked at the architecture of firewalls and at types of firewalls and how they function. We saw that the firewalls monitor the packet's traffic and decide whether to allow a packet to pass through or to drop it. So a firewall is a gateway to get into a network or to get information out of the network. Quite often, you will also have an intrusion detection system or IDS in place, so an attacker would try to bypass the firewall and or IDS. With this background, let's see how individuals can evade a firewall.
Let's do. Let's start with IP address spoofing, or what we call IP spoofing. IP spoofing is one of the ways that an attacker tries to evade firewall restrictions. Note that they try to evade. In this technique, the attacker uses a forged IP address to create Internet Protocol packets. With these packets, he tries to gain access over the system or network without any authorization. Now, the attacker can spoof the messages. These messages appear to be coming from a trusted source, so the attacker may be successful in impersonating others with the help of IP spoofing. Now, this technique is mostly used by hackers. They'll use it so that they will not be caught while they spam and carry out other various activities.
Yeah, and here is a scenario to help us understand how a firewall can be bypassed by impersonating someone else's identity while using IP spoofing. You have three hosts, X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
Host Z is a trusted machine of host Y. Host X wants to send some packets to host Y by impersonating itself as Z. It will do this by changing the IP address of the packets sent to Y. When the packets are received by Y, X thinks that these packets are from Z, though they are actually from X. When Y thinks that the packets are from a trusted host, it will go ahead and accept the packets. Now the attacker can send the payload and then cause the desired damage. This is an example of how IP spoofing can work.
Thanks, Laura. Another evasion method is called source routing. This is when the route to a destination is mandated by the sender so it bypasses the firewall. When successful, the attacker can evade the restrictions imposed by the firewall. So, when a packet is sent from a source to a destination, it'll go through a different node. A packet travels through the nodes in a network. Each router will check the IP address of the destination and choose the next node toward the destination. In source routing, the sender makes some or all of these decisions on the router. Now, this is an example of how source routing can be used to bypass the firewall.
Yeah, no, we just talked about two ways of evading firewalls. We talked about IP address spoofing and source routing. We're now going to talk about another way of evading firewalls in which we use a teeny fragment to evade a firewall. TCP header is split up into multiple packets. This makes it difficult for the packet filters and intrusion detection systems to detect what you are trying to do. An attack will succeed if the filtering router examines only the first fragment and allows all the other fragments to pass through. Let me explain this in a little more detail. The fragmentation may result if the TCP flags field is forced into the second fragment. When this happens, filters will be unable to check these flags and ignore them in subsequent fragments.
That's right. Firewalls and IDSs will have predefined patterns. Now, as the patterns come in fragments, the IDS or firewall will not be able to match the patterns. This way, you can avoid user-defined filtering rules. This type of evading is successful when TCP header information is checked by the firewall.
Another way to evade firewalls is by using the URL or IP address. It is simple but very powerful. Now, normally the URLs are defined in the blocked site list. You can type the IP address directly in the browser's address bar instead of the blocked website's domain name. And a conscious administrator will also include the IP address in the blocked list. So this method fails if the blocking software tracks the IP address sent to the web server. Use services such as host2IP to find the IP address of the blocked website.
That's right. As an example, instead of typing the URL www.facebook.com to type its IP address to access Facebook. If the blocking software can track the IP address sent to the web server, the website could not be blocked or accessed by using this method.
And we all know that certain sites are blocked from accessing. This can be in your office, city, or country. You can still browse them using anonymous surfing sites like a proxy website. Proxy websites can help to unblock blocked websites. And there are many websites that allow a user surfing the internet anonymously. Now, it means that your IP address and other details can be hidden. Some websites provide options to encrypt the URLs of the websites.
That's right. Proxy websites hide the actual IP address and show another IP address. Now, this way, firewalls can be bypassed from denying access to the desired site. There are many proxy servers that facilitate the browsing of blocked websites. Here are a few of them. Proxify.com, spysurfing.com, and zendproxy.com.
And we just talked about proxy websites that can help us access the blocked sites. Now let's talk about a proxy server. And a proxy server can be a hardware or software, and it sits in between an endpoint device that requests and another device, a server that services. And you can use a proxy server to bypass the firewall restriction imposed.
That's right.